Trevor.
How's it going?
Hey, I can't hear you. Are you there?
I think I just turned it on my audio.
Neal, you there? Wait,
Yeah, can you hear me?
let's go. My volume wasn't on. Hey, Neal, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How you been?
Good. Trevor, where are you at school at?
So I go to UNT in Denton.
Nice. What are you majoring in?
Right now, it's kind of like pre-business, but I'm hoping to go to like finance, maybe marketing.
Okay. Nice. Neal, where are you at school now?
I'm UTD and I'm finance and accounting double major.
Nice.
Mhm.
Nice. Man, awesome. Very cool. What's your hardest classes?
I think right now I'm taking a junior level finance class, which is the hardest one.
What are they teaching in there?
It's just a lot of like time value money, stuff like that, like converting like stuff like that. That's the weird part about it because it's not like the stuff that we did and like all throughout high school.
Yeah. Time value
Mhm.
money, like that's when they compute major league contracts, they always consider that. Like
Mhm.
when they give guys like $100 million, but they defer it down like 20 years down the line,
Mhm.
that time value is way more valuable to the team than it is to that player. So
Yeah. It's
interesting.
just a bunch of like weird formulas, perpetuities, annuities, stuff like that. That's what you get into.
Nice. Nice.
Mhm.
Very cool. Trevor, what's your hardest class?
Probably my business calculus right now.
Oh man,
Yeah,
this is calculus. Man,
yeah.
look at this Kush guy. Look at his hair. I love it. And he got a beard. Look at you.
How are you?
You're not messing around. You doing all right?
Yes, sir.
You had your coffee yet?
No, just
Thank God.
had my alarm. That's it. Just water.
That's all right. That's all right. Where are you at school, Kush?
I'm at Texas A&M.
Oh, you are. Okay. Gig 'em.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good. What's your major
Mm.
there?
My major's econ, probably going into finance though. Hopefully,
Okay. Man, three people want to go into finance. What's your hardest class?
my business calc as well.
Is it? Why?
Yeah, it's tough because they it's just like the toughest because like most of the classes your first year as a finance major aren't that bad,
Yeah.
and I've already done my accountings and then econ, so business calc is probably the hardest.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
funny. I never had to take business calculus, so thank goodness. I was terrible at math. Like
Yeah,
any
I
of the
don't
other
know
stuff,
how
any other
I don't
stuff
know
like
how
stats
applicable
or
will
problem
be.
solving, I did great in. But boy, any of those algebra, geometry, any of that stuff going toward that, I was out. I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. I don't know why. So, but man, but how's college life? Is it good? You guys all liking college?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Is it better than high school or what? What do you like? What do you like most
Yeah.
about it?
Freedom.
Um, yeah, yeah, the freedom, just being on your own schedule.
Yeah. Is it hard to get up for classes though? Don't you sleep in a lot? Like you miss classes?
I
Depends
mean,
on how you
yeah,
your
here and
schedule.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the toughest thing I think my first semester. But I played soccer in college too, so it was like my coach was like in our ear about it. Like if you weren't there for school or whatever, he was like, "What are you doing?" Like they were professors let him know, and so I kind of didn't get a lot of freedom my first year, which is kind of nice. Then my sophomore year, I didn't play sports, and it was like, if I want to sleep in, nobody's gonna call on me. Like nobody's gonna be asking anything. So you guys are thinking about buying some real estate.
Yes,
Mhm.
sir.
Yeah.
Cool. So how can I help?
Just kind of like how you got into your first real estate deal as well as what to look for.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that I think last year when I taught this class, I was kind of all over the place trying to figure out how to kind of consolidate this down. This year, I've really been able to kind of figure out a real simple path for students, in my opinion, like how to get into their first property, which kind of changed some things around a little bit this year. The first quarter this year, I did Millionaire Next Door, which was all about playing defense on your money and not overspending and not getting into debt. Second quarter was all about securities. So we read Elements of Investing, and we did for everything from stocks to 401ks to Roth IRAs, all that kind of stuff. Third quarter was all about real estate, Airbnbs, rental properties, all that kind of stuff. Fourth quarter we're in right now, we're just going into like franchises, running your own side hustle, all that stuff. So what I'm telling them now is while you're in college, minimize your debt. Do not get into debt. I interviewed a lady last week named Jill Burt. She's a mortgage broker. She'd be a great person for you guys to talk to, but she bought her first property when she was 21, when she was out of college. And she did that by graduating from college, having no debt, and having a job, having your JOB set. And then from there, she had good credit because she had been building her credit all through college. And at 21, as long as you buy something that's cheap, if you guys are like, man, Mr. Simpson, I want to go live in Coppell, and Mr. Simpson, I want to go live in Highland Park or South Lake, it's not going to work. You got to think blue collar. You got to think like Garland. You got to think like, gosh, I don't know, Bedford. You got to think areas where you can get something for under $250,000. And that's your best bet. And as long as you buy the property and you live in it, you get to have owner occupied status, which gets you 1% lower on your interest rate. And you only have to put 5% down. The property I bought last weekend in Rockwall, it's a tenant occupied loan. So I have to put down 25% on that property to make it work. The great thing is that I found it $70,000 under market. So because of that, I don't have to put anything down. I literally can walk into that property and not have to pay anything and get in on it. But I'm also at a point now where I have a HELOC, a home equity line of credit, and that is up to $250,000 of cash. It's like walking in with a suitcase full of money, and you can buy properties from distressed sellers for cash. And by doing that, you basically get in on deals that the general population just can't get in on. So my advice to you guys is stay out of debt, get your degree. If you can build a side hustle and create reserves, because like even where I'm at now, within what we have, I have 3 rental properties completely paid off. It's almost $1 million in equity. We have our home property in Trophy Club paid off, almost $700,000 in equity. Even with all of that, the bank still wants to know, what do you have in your 401k? What do you have in your 403b? What do you have in your Roth IRA? What do you have in your Robinhood account? They want to see all that every stinking time I buy a property. Why? I don't know. I got plenty of equity coming out the wazoo, and they still are like, they want to know that. So if you can, while in college, contribute to a 401k, or not 401k, I'm sorry, a Roth IRA, you can put $6,500 a year into that. Put it in there and just don't think about it. But what that gives you is reserves, because when you go to qualify for a loan, the bank's going to say, okay, great, Kush, that's amazing. You got a finance degree. You're going to make $100,000 a year. Good for you. That's great. You got no debt. Amazing. What do you have in reserves? Because what they're curious about is what happens when the roof falls in or when the air conditioning breaks. A lot of times people who don't have any reserves, they simply hand their keys back to the bank and say, I'm out. And by having reserves, you can liquidate your Roth IRA if you had to. God forbid you don't want to do it, but if you did, you'd have that money to be able to put in there. The other thing is to make sure that you have a side hustle of some kind right now, some kind of way to make some money on the side, and that money is strictly put away for a down payment. You're not even thinking about it. Like if you need to use it, it hurts to use it. Don't use it. My side hustle sports camp right here at Triumph Sports, it buys me my properties. It provides me, like right now, with revenue to be able to go get properties. And it offers me another stream of income. But its sole purpose, primarily from a financial standpoint, is to provide me money to get into a property, repairing it, whatever I need to do. My first property I bought in Burleson, I got it for $170 and it was worth $220. So I had 50 grand in equity in it, which is great. But it needed 20 grand to work. At first, we thought it was only going to be 12 grand. We're like, yay, it's going to be great. And then the roof didn't pass inspection. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's another $7,000. That hurts. But still, I put 190,000 into the property and it's worth 220. So at least I have 30K in equity that I can have on that property. And it's renting for $200 more than the PITI on it. So it's renting for $1,750. My PITI is $1,550, so I'm making cash flow on it, and I have equity. So between those 2 transactions I've made in the last month, Rockwall and Burleson, 100 grand in equity I've gained in 1 month. When you consider that as a teacher, I make $57,000 a year to put on these Coppell t-shirts, to wear my badge, schlep these PowerPoints that I give the kids. I have to work hard for that. Whereas real estate, you don't have to work very hard if you know what you're doing.
going into these properties that you found over market under market value,
Yeah.
how did you find those and allocate those? Just kind of like searching through Zillow all day, or what
No,
was your
Zillow is on market. Zillow
Yeah.
is what people are paying when they're paying full market value. I'm not gonna pay full market value. Every property I get, I want 25% under market. So if it's a $200,000 house, I want to get it for 150, or I'm not even considering it. And that was with no, I want it turnkey. I don't want to have to do anything to it, because
Mhm.
the Burleson house, what I learned was that, first of all, the tenant rented back from me for 3 weeks unpaid. It was just part of the deal. I had to do it. I didn't quite realize how frustrating that would be, but they got 3 weeks of free rent as part of the deal. I should have negotiated that better. I did. And you learn. Every time you do a deal, you learn. And then I had 3 weeks of repairs that had to take place. So I had 6 weeks of time where I wasn't getting any money for that property. And so now I know, when I run my numbers, when I go into a property, I look at it and I think, am I getting 75% or am I getting 25% loan to value? Because if I don't, that means at closing, I've got to kick in whatever else. So let's say, for instance, it's worth 200,000 and I get it for 160. That means at closing, I've got to kick in 10 grand to get it from 160 to 150 on a closing price. So I'm not going to want to do that. For you guys, though, you're going to probably have to buy on market for a while. And the reason is because you're going to be owner occupying your properties. So you're going to be living in it. I'm not going to move my family to Rockwall or Burleson. We're happy where we're at. So you can look for properties on Zillow or any of those other places and just look for deals. You look for the number of days that the property's been on the market. It's been on the market for a long time. You look for properties that are distressed. Like as is a great descriptor. When you see that in a marketing for that particular property is sold as is. That means most people don't want that property. You know, the house that I bought down in Red Oak, there was literally dog crap on the wall. Like the people, when they were foreclosed on that property and they walked out, they were like saying F you to the bank, and then they took dog crap and threw it on the wall. And everybody that walked through that house was like, oh my gosh, they were out. And I'm like, I'm sure I could find a guy to clean the dog crap off that wall. I don't care. Like, and so for me, I got a property that nobody wanted. I got it for like 57,000. It was so cheap. It was great. And I spent $6,000 putting flooring and painting it. By the way, I don't do any of those things. I don't have any skills. So I hire a guy, he does all of it for me, comes through. And for me, like, that's how you can get into a very cheap property. If you can find one that is distressed, that has people don't want it itis. They don't want the property and the market doesn't want it either. You can get in if it's got a weird floor plan, if if it's 2 bedroom, 1 bath, whatever, it's kind of weird. Like people just don't want those. You want to find those properties that are a little bit weird and you can get in on those. And what you want to do is you want to occupy that property for as long as the bank requires it. So if the bank says for an owner occupied loan, you got to stay there 1 year, then that's fine. You move into that property, you fix it up, you live there for a year, you rent out the other rooms to roommates, rent those people, make those people pay rent to you. And then once you're there for a year and you qualify, then you move to house number 2 over here and you rent this one out. And this one, you get owner occupied again. You can do it over and over and over again, as long as you move and you live in the property, as long as you are possessing and living in the property. You can't cheat though. You can't stay here and say, oh, I'm going to move here. That's not going to work. They're not going to like that. Okay. But this one, you also want to rent out. So you need to be able to get this property for an owner occupied loan. And that is going to only make you do 5%. Some of the loans, the FHA, the Fair Housing Administration, they, on that first property, sometimes they'll do 100% loans. Sometimes they'll do 103% loans. At closing, they'll give you back $3,000 on a $100,000 house. There are some great programs out there. And that's where I would definitely look. Like, I wouldn't look for anything new. New is no good for you. New is everybody wants new. You don't want to be in the everybody world. You want to be in the nobody world. You want to be in the world where people are looking at these properties going, oh my gosh, there's dog poop on the wall. That's the property you want. Dog poop on the wall, that's the property you want. There you go. Dog poop, yes. New, no.
Well, I kind of wanted to
Go ahead.
touch.
No, go ahead.
Well, I wanted to touch a little bit on kind of like the prices right now is that what I've seen is there's hardly anything available under 250,000,
Yeah.
let alone with that, like not even a new house, just someplace that's like a decent house that even it might not be the best, but I could at least get roommates to want to pay rent
Mhm.
with the interest rates right now. And the if you put 5% down, the mortgage monthly payments would be from like 27 to 3,000 a month. So I was kind of wondering like how would I be able to like let's say I can pay a down payment and closing costs, but then to make sure I can come up with 3 grand every single month just to be able to get by without even including like property tax, utilities, and then
Yeah.
like furnishing the house.
Well, property tax is going to be included in your payment because that's part of PITI.
You're muted.
Sorry, there you go. Okay, property tax is part of the PITI, principal, interest, tax, insurance. So taxes are going to be included in that. So you want to make that part of your payment. And by the way, if you're still in college, yeah, it's probably not a great time. Wait till you're out of college. Keep your debt down to nothing. Try not to take any student loans. Try not to take any credit card debt. Don't finance a car. Don't do any of those things. Live cheap. And when you're 22 and you've graduated, now you've got your JOB and you're making 75,000 a year or whatever you're going to make. At that point, then you start looking for a property. And at that point, you start looking at the first time buyer program being 100%. And by the way, if it's $2,700 a month, yeah, that's going to hurt. That's going to really hurt. But with 2 roommates, I mean, here, like in Roanoke recently, we were looking at room for rent. My wife sent me this thing. She's like, look at this person, $1,100 for a room with a bathroom. People were paying. I mean, room for rents are hard to get. Property is hard to get right now. People are having a hard time finding anything. And so if it's $2,500 a month and you got 2 roommates paying you $700 or $800 each, that's totally affordable, in my opinion. Plus, it starts building you equity. And by the way, to me, let's say you move out of that house number 1 and you move to house number 2. And let's say over here, your payment is $2,500 and you can only rent it for $2,200, $300 negative equity or $300 negative cash flow. To me, that's okay. You're building equity within the property. The property is going up in value. The tenants are paying the mortgage down for you, in my opinion. And you have to kick in $300 a month. But remember, when the interest rate drops, which it will, right now the interest rates are high and everybody likes a low interest rate. In a few years, it's going to come down and you refinance that bad boy and you refinance it down to 3%. That $300 is going to go away and your rents are going to steadily continue to grow. My first 2 houses, I had a negative cash flow on them. And I'm so thankful it didn't scare me away. I bought them for, I remember thinking 89,000. That's insane. That's way too expensive. Now those properties are 300,000. And those properties now are completely paid off. And they're, $1,900 a month in rent, which are great. I only have taxes and insurance I have to pay for every year on those things. So like, even if you have a slight negative cash flow at 22 years old, don't think about your property as a 1-year thing. Don't think of it as like, I got to make money right now. No, you don't. That's okay. Think of it as 30 years. It's a 401k with a driveway and someone else is paying it for you. As the tenant lives there, they're paying your 401k and building that thing up for you, which is amazing. And once you have it paid off, you've got cash flow coming in and you get all the tax benefits. Those people who are living there renting for you, they get no benefits. You get all the benefits as once you get an accountant and you show them what you're doing. I remember like showing my account when I was 28 years old. I bought my 3rd property and she was just like, this is great. She's like, your tenants are making you wealthy and do you realize all the tax benefits? And I was like, I didn't even know that there were tax benefits. No one ever told me that. And I'm like, wait a minute. The house is appreciating in value, but the IRS lets me depreciate the price of the house every year. And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Why do they do that? And they're like, because they need people to buy property. They need people to have incentives to buy property and rent it out. They need housing. And so the government gives you incentives for running a small business and it gives you incentives for having a house, having rental properties, big incentives.
One question I had is that here at A&M, the student renting price is pretty high for townhomes, condos, etc. There's a lot of single families here that people often buy as not only to let their kids stay, but also as an investing.
Yeah.
If that was something my parents were to do and have a single family, like let's say a 4-bed, 4-bath, and me and 3 other roommates would stay there, was that something you would recommend?
No, I wouldn't. I mean, like, unless you're going to stay in College Station after you graduate,
Mhm.
you're going to stay there.
No.
No, then my wife went to A&M for her master's degree, and her dad, my father-in-law, bought her a townhouse, a 3-bedroom townhouse, and she rented out 2 of the rooms, and she had one of them, and it was great. But she was only there for a year and a half for her master's, and then when she was done, my father-in-law was like, well, "What the heck do I do with this thing?" Because college students, no offense, are the worst. They're terrible to deal with. They only want 9-month leases. Of course, everybody has to sign a year lease, so it's not an option to be a 9-month lease. But they don't take care of the properties. They're constantly turnover every year. You've got to have a different tenant. 3 of my tenants right now have been with me for more than 4 years. That is awesome. That is like very low turnover. And when you have very low turnover, you don't have to repair the property. When a tenant moves out, you got to put in paint. You got to put in carpet. It's a pain in the neck. If the tenant stays there for like 5 years, you really get the life out of that carpet and paint, because everybody likes to move into a place that smells nice and new and all that, even though it's not. So to me, I would say, whatever your parents are offering you, say, great, go put it in a savings account for me. Put it in an IRA or something. Put it somewhere where I can let it grow. And when I'm 22 years old and I'm a big shot with a finance degree, I can go and get my job in Dallas or Houston or wherever I'm going to live, and I can buy a property there. That's the way to do it. If your parents have access to a HELOC, a home equity line of credit, or if they have access to cash, let's say they have $300,000, $400,000 in cash laying around, and they want to help you, you can buy off-market properties and get properties 75% of value. But if they don't, and you're on your own, you're bootstrapping it yourself, which is what I did, then you certainly want to buy something on market, try to get it undervalued, try to get people who don't want the house, and try to get in as fast as you can. For me, though, right now, when my kids graduate from college, we're going to be doing a property for each one of them. I mean, we're not going to buy them the property, but what we're going to do is we're going to be able to use off-market scenario to help them get into that property, and then let them refinance us out of it and be able to get 70% to value or whatever, to be able to have owner occupied status. And so we can help them that way. We can also provide them the down payment, some other things. So if your parents are able to do that, then great. If not, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Jill Burt, who is the mortgage broker, same thing. She's 21. She got her own property. And then 22, she bought a second property, moved out of it. 24, she bought a third property. She just moved property to property. So don't get any nice furniture. Don't be like, all those people are going to come to your house. They'll be like, you need a nice sofa for that. No, you don't. You need you need hand-me-down stuff. You need stuff that's just going to be whatever. And you need roommates. Roommates will completely chip down your mortgage for you. If you're like Trevor and you're talking about $2,500 mortgage payment, and you can afford $2,500, and your roommates are paying you $1,500 a month in rent, don't take that $1,500 and go, now I can go lease a Land Rover. Instead, go take that $1,500 and just throw it straight at your mortgage, or take that $1,500 and start putting it in an account as a savings for your next property. Because the next property, you can still get it owner occupied with 5%, but you're going to need, 20 grand if you're, buying a property at a certain level, because you need closing costs and all that kind of stuff. You can also ask the seller to contribute closing costs. If they got a property that they hate and there's crap on the wall, and you only want to put 5% down, you can say, I'll buy this property, but I want the seller to pay the closing costs. That's part of the deal. Instead of $100,000, I'll give you $104,000 for your house, but you got to pay the closing costs. I'm going to pay you above what you're asking for that particular property, but you got to pay the close, and that will help you getting into that property. And any mortgage broker that you work with can tell you any of these tricks. Like, these are all ways that they find to get you in there. The truth is that you guys are risky, and the riskier you are, the more money a mortgage broker typically makes off of you. Like, if you're buying a property, FHA, that's government subsidized, the government's probably chipping in too. That mortgage broker is probably making more money off of you as a first time or early buyer than they are off of me, somebody who doesn't need a lot of assistance. And so, like, from The Big Short, you guys saw that movie. The Big Short, they talk about, like, the loans that are, you know, more risky are the ones that the mortgage brokers clean up on. And so just understand that you're like blood in the water to them, because you can say like, hey, I'm a first time home buyer. They're going to all be coming trying to help you, and they'll give you a million ways to help get through it. And if at any point you're like, I don't know if I'm getting a good deal here, give me a call and let's chat about it. And I can you know, I've been in situations where I've had to walk out of a room. Mortgage broker was trying to take advantage of me. I'm like, this is a bunch of crap. I'm not listening to you. You're trying to take advantage of me, you know. And they're like, oh no. I'm like, I'm out. And I can smell that from a ways away. And if you're at the closing table and they're switching the interest rate, or they're changing the terms, or making you buy points, or all sorts of things, you just pick up the phone, call me, and let's chat. And I'll put the mortgage broker on the phone with me, and they can explain it to me. If it doesn't make sense to me, then I just say no. A confused mind says no, and you should say no. And you can always walk away and say, well, let's do closing tomorrow. Let's figure this out. But that's you don't have to close. Everybody's there and everybody's cheering you on. But the moment you say like, this isn't going to work for me, because you're in, once you close on that deal, that's that. But don't be afraid though either. I don't mean to make you guys afraid. Everybody, like when you buy your first property, everybody's cheering you on, like, yay, yay. When you buy your second property, everybody's like, whoa, like this is way risky. And you buy your third property, they're like, oh, you're asking for it. Pay them no mind. They just don't know. Most people just don't know. That's why only 7% of people buy real estate that's not their primary home as a rental property. Only 7%, because they're afraid and they just don't know. And that's too bad. Like, I mean, every month, my wife and I get a check for $5,300 from our 3 rental properties that are paid off. It's like $5,300 cash profit. It's like better than teaching. I sit home, make more money than I could being here, which is okay. Like but people just don't know. My wife, when we first got married, she was like, these rental properties are a pain in the neck and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, now she's like, real estate's the greatest thing ever. You know, she just didn't know.
Well, if you do have access to, you know, getting a property off market right now, say your parents have enough, how would you go about that? Like through a realtor, you're probably your realtor.
Yeah. And what I would do is I'll send you some names. I've got some guys that I work with. I've got one that represents Dallas County, Dallas and East Dallas. That was the guy I actually bought the Rockwell house through. And that was a tough one. Those guys were not, he wanted 340 for the house. He had it listed originally at 340. It's like, you're out of your mind. And they dropped it to 320 and he couldn't sell it. And then he went on to off market and they listed it at 280. And I was the only one that showed any interest, I guess. I don't know. I guess maybe there's other people that were showing interest, but I came in, I said, I'll give you two. I was thinking, I was like, I asked the broker, I'm like, would he take 260? Because I was thinking, I don't really want to kick in 10 grand of my own money because my HELOC is only for 250. And so the guy was like, I don't know, whatever. And so I came out and looked at the property. I kind of ran my numbers and I came back and said, I'll give him 250 for it. And they're like, absolutely not. And I'm like, okay, well, hey, it's been great. You know, it was a Friday morning. It was before Easter. I'm like, I don't have school. So it's just a nice drive to Rockwell. It's a beautiful town. And you listen to my economic podcast and drink my Starbucks and enjoy my morning. And then when I came back, I got a text that said, hey, he's willing to do 260. Can you do 260? And I'm like, not a chance. I'll do 250, but that's okay. Like, I understand that he can't do that or whatever. And we just went back and forth. And then finally by late Saturday night, when he hadn't gotten any other offers, he said he'll accept 250. And I'm like, awesome. And these guys send me, so in my inbox, and I may have some already this morning. Let me see. Which I had one to show you. I literally delete them so fast now because my HELOC is tied up, so I can't buy any properties right now. I can't buy anything until May 2nd. And so my HELOC, I'm not using it at all right now. And so every one of these emails that I get, I'll forward you some though. I might have one here to show you all. Let's see.
Here, I'll put my email in the chat. I'll do that.
Yeah. And what I do is I register with all these guys. DFW Real Estate Investing on, oh wait, I've got 10 emails here. So look at this. This is just since we've been talking. These are all of the deals that I've gotten in the like since I left my house. I get, sorry, this thing is like prompting me. I get all these deals coming into me. I get 30 off-market deals a day from my guys. And like, so let's look at this one right here. This showing in Aubrey, Texas. So here's a property right here, as you can see. And you're looking at how much are they asking for it? They're asking $340 for this house. So the ARV is, and they aren't telling you what the ARV on this property is, but a 4-bedroom, 2.5, 2-car garage. I don't know what it's worth, but I would run the numbers and say, okay, 340. That would be that. By the way, that property's out of my price range because I can't do more than 250. But I would look at that property and say, what's the ARV, the after repair value? If it's $500,000, then 340 is a steal, right?
Yeah.
Off market. Oh, here's a here's a fun one. I don't know if you want to live there. You might want a bulletproof vest or something if you're living there. But you know, you look at these some of these houses here. They come in. That one's coming in at $115,000, as you can see, 1949, 3-bedroom, 1 bath. So I don't know where this is located. This is Samson Park. I have no idea where that's at. Here's a 322 in Arlington, 229.
Now on that second property you showed, let's say you crunch the numbers and you find the ARV to be over 250, like just randomly, okay? And say your price for refurbishing it is 50. So let's say you close in at 115, just the price, plus another 50, you're at 165. And now you have about 95K in equity. Now, for someone like us, we're young, right? So at this point, we have an option to flip that property. We have an option to keep it,
Right.
Or we have an option that even without doing any of the repairs of that 50,000, we can go ahead and wholesale that property and get it under contract for, say, 115. Get another buyer ready on table cash, 140. We got ourselves a quick 25K within a month time frame. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's just something that I see ourselves doing because it's definitely a viable option if we can find off-market properties. Now, the biggest thing with wholesale is that you're not gonna find a property on Zillow that you can go ahead and wholesale. You know, like the likelihood of you doing that is about less than 1%, I'd say.
Well, what you would do is on Zillow is you'd see how many days it was on the market. The property I just brought in Rockwall had been on the market for a long time. And so those wholesalers reached out to him and said, hey, or do you ever see those people who have the signs on the side of the road that say, we buy houses? That's those guys. And what they're trying to do is just get someone under contract. And by the way, I've got one of the students here, Cy, who's a senior. He was in, I had him last year. He's now bird dog. It's called being a bird dog. You go out and you find people who don't want their properties and you offer them significant less. And you don't tell me what you've offered them. You just come tell me, hey, I got a property worth 200K and you can buy it for 150. He might have got it for 110.
Yeah.
And if he did, then he makes 40 grand on the transaction. It just depends. So like bird dogging is a way to do it. Typically the wholesalers that I'm getting it from, they already have them under contract.
Okay.
So New Western's already found them in a way. One of their ways that like they send out, I get texts every month to say, are you interested in selling your house? We're interested in buying it or whatever. Open Door is another one where they go through and they offer people cash for their money, for their property. The property in Rockwall, it was an Airbnb that was not successful. It was unsuccessful. And the guy's just behind on his mortgage payments. He hasn't paid his taxes. He's facing foreclosure. So he has to take $250,000. If he doesn't take $250,000, he loses the whole thing because nobody else was there to buy it. So I just got really lucky, but that's also like opportunity, meaning being prepared and hitting the right opportunity. But I get to see 30 of these a day. And so when I look at 30 of them a day, I can say to myself, well, that's a really good deal. And by the way, I'm the gas, my wife's the brakes. So when I come up with one of these deals, first person I got to convince is the queen of negative Nancy herself, my wife, which I love her for that. I love her that she's very pessimistic. And she's like, she's like, what about this? Well, what about that? What about this? It's like, okay, like here, here's what you have a 4-bet. Rockwall ISD has a higher scholastic rating than Coppell ISD does. It has a higher than Byron Nelson. So you literally have like a school district that's completely sought after by people. And so like any property in that area that's going to feed to Rockwall High School is going to be highly sought after. And so for us, that makes a lot of sense to buy that property. But for you, like right now, if you want to spend your time bird dogging, you can. and you can get properties under contract and bring me deals, I'm happy to hear them. You can always send me you just have to realize you're competing against 30 other deals I'm seeing every day. And I want the mother of all deals. I don't like, I want turnkey. I want 75% LTV, loan to value. I want to be able to put a tenant in that thing as soon as possible and get it running. Here's the best thing about this is that because I lock those people in, my HELOC gives me a month. I don't know a payment for a month on my HELOC. And once my HELOC payment's due, I'm going to get permanent financing through my bank, which is going to give me another 60 days before I have to make one payment. I don't have to make a payment on my Rockwell house until July 1st. So I get 3 months of rent at $2,200 a month with no payments. So like, it's a great, like having a HELOC and being able to lock in a property, a month on the HELOC and 2 months on the permanent financing. I get 90 days without having to make a payment. So my $7,500 original investment, I'm making $6,600 back immediately from the rent with no underlying mortgage payment. Now I do have to put a shed in the backyard, so that's going to be $1,200. I do have to put a stove. It needs a new stove. There's a couple things, but you're talking like, I don't know, $1,500, $2,000 total. So my ROI is going to be through the roof, especially since the property is going to make me $300 a month in passive income in the first year, in the first month alone. After once I start having payments, because my mortgage on it's $1,900 a month, and the renters are $2,200. So it's good. That's, you want to put as little money as your own money in there, and if you can on any of these deals to maximize your ROI as well. So. But I would go online. New Western is a company that you want to get familiar with to buy from. And that's these guys right here. New Western. Okay. And that's the kind of deals you're looking for. They have agents in every area. I've got Jake, who represents me in Tarrant County. I've got TJ, who recommends me represents me in Dallas. And I've got Grant, who reps me in Denton County and Collin County. And so whenever there's a deal that comes across and they know that my HELOC's ready, I'm like a hungry hippo. I'm like, when that deal is there, they know they can reach out to me. And if I've got available funds, I'm going to jump on it. And they know now they've done 2 deals with me. So they know I've told them my goal is to buy 10 properties over the next 2 years. So I've got 8 more to buy.
Yeah, I hear you. How many properties are you sitting at right now?
We have 6 total. So we want 8 more. We want to be at 14. And then within 10 years, when Charlie goes off to college, we want to sell 4 or 5 of them and just pay off all the rest and have, $20,000 a month in passive income to do nothing. I love it. Every month I just put money in my account. I just feel like it's too easy. There are costs, like your air conditioning can go out, your roof can go out. There are things that can come up, but don't let those things scare you off. And as long as you've got reserves, you got money sitting in your Robinhood account, you got money sitting somewhere, you got $15,000, $20,000 in there for any of those big things, because most people don't do it because they're scared. Don't be like that. So I only got about a minute left here, and then this thing's going to shut us off. But if you will text me your email addresses, I'll keep them here, and I'll forward deals on to you guys too that I see, and you guys can get hooked up with these guys as well. I text a lot of them. TJ, I text like once a week. Jake, I text once a week. And those guys are young. They're like 23, 24. They're hungry. They're fired up about real estate. There's one guy who works for New Western from Coppell. His name's Dylan Abramson. I don't know if you guys know him. But
I've heard of him.
Yeah, he's cleaning up. I saw his Facebook page the other day. He's in front of a McLaren. So I don't know if he owns it or he's just standing there, but he looked good. So I got to roll though. The bell just rang. I've got about 10 minutes till class starts. But man, it was great chatting with you guys. Let's do this again. Let me know how else I can help. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Have a great day.